Hi, my name is Jeremy Brunansky, and you're about to watch a brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog. This is a weekly show that drops every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube. In this show, we cover movie news, movie reviews, and a little bit more. If this is your first time with us, consider clicking that subscribe button. For everybody who's returning, thank you so much. And as always, if you enjoy any portion of this show, give me that thumbs up button. Let's go ahead and cut now to this week's episode. Good morning, it's Monday morning, it's 10 a.m. PST, and that means it's time for another episode of Brunansky's Vlog. Thanks for watching. This week we have a great show for you guys and gals, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this intro, but I will say that we've got a pretty awesome news story. We discuss a lot about Oscar nominations for this year. We have 3 movie reviews after that: Paddington 2, 12 Strong, and The Commuter. And then it's not over. We still have more to talk about. We have what's coming out in theaters, what's arriving on DVD and Blu-ray for your home theater, and finally, my personal favorite, Certified Rad. All right, everyone, we're gonna get this week's episode started. It's 10 a.m. PST. You're on YouTube watching Brunansky's Vlog. Let's go ahead and roll now to the news. In the news, Maximum Effort and Fox have signed a 3-year deal and will be remaking the movie Clue. So if you aren't familiar with Maximum Effort is Ryan Reynolds' production company. So the news that he's going to be remaking the movie Clue, I think, is actually pretty fantastic. Because if he's actually going to be in the movie, I would love to see him recreate the role of the butler played by Tim Curry, or Mr. Green played by Michael McKean. Now, if you aren't familiar with the original film, it is a movie based off of the classic board game Clue, where you go around the mansion and you try and figure out who murdered who, with which weapon, and in what room. I'm talking about redoing this movie right here, Clue from 1985. If you have not seen this movie yet, you are doing yourself a disservice if you love comedies. I'll go ahead and throw a link for this in the description box below, and you can definitely check it out. And you're going to want to watch all the multiple endings of this film, because all of the multiple endings really help make this film special. But Clue stands apart as a cult classic comedy as well as murder mystery whodunit. This film was done so well that 1985, over 30 years later, we're still celebrating this film, and it hasn't been remade until now. Well, and even now it hasn't been remade, it's just being talked about being remade. At any rate, we're looking at getting a brand new Clue movie with Ryan Reynolds, and I think that is pretty spectacular. I think we're in for a really, really good time at the movies. I'm very curious to see who they get to come on board to direct and act in it along with Ryan Reynolds, and he's also bringing on the writers from Deadpool. So we're gonna have a team that's coming back together that's already familiar with each other and familiar with the comedy style and how to just get the pacing and the timing right of the jokes to match with the seriousness of the moment. Everything I was reading about this, I was just like, this sounds like an absolutely fantastic idea, and I'm so happy that they're pulling this team together to make it work. Fingers crossed they're able to get this film into production and they're able to get the ball rolling so we can see what their vision is on the big screen. Comment below with your thoughts. The Academy Awards are just around the corner, which means the Oscar nominations have dropped. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the folks who were nominated, some of the films who were nominated, and maybe also who should have been nominated that was not. So if you are a faithful watcher of Brunansky's Vlog, you know that on our Facebook Live sessions, we've been covering a lot of the award shows leading up to the Oscars. We've covered the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Writers Guild, Critics' Choice, Golden Globes, and now we're also looking at the nominations for the Academy Awards. Let's go ahead and take a look at the nominations in more than just the Best Picture category. So if you haven't watched Saturday's Facebook Live, I'll go ahead and throw a card up right here, and you can go ahead and just click on that, and that'll take you to that video specifically, and you can watch my breakdown and kind of my thoughts on the Best Picture. But go ahead and comment below with who you'd like to see win Best Picture. Lead actor, Timothée Chalamet for Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour, Denzel Washington, Roman J. Israel, Esquire. Now, I didn't see Call Me By Your Name, so I can't really speak to his performance, but what I can say is out of everybody that was on that list, I am not surprised at all that Denzel got nominated. I know a lot of people may be like, really? For Roman J. Israel, Esquire? While the movie itself was kind of okay. His performance was spectacular. So when I saw his name on this nominations list, I was very happy because I was like, now that is what I'm talking about. Because he really did transformation to hit this character and all of the nuances and subtleties and kind of personality tics that the character had. There is one name on this list, however, that really kind of caught me by surprise, because while I will not at all be surprised if Get Out actually wins, I was surprised that Daniel got the nomination for lead actor. So if I had to pick one actor on this list where I was like, if I was in the Academy, I would have voted for this person instead, I would pull Daniel out of this slot. And in place of him, I would throw up either one of these two actors, because I think they did an incredible transformative job in their roles as well. First would be Michael Shannon for his role in The Shape of Water. I thought he played an incredibly brilliant character, and the fact that he has a crippled hand that is slowly deteriorating as the movie goes on, and he's got this tick about him where he's got to constantly have candy, and just the driving manic nature of his performance from the time we meet him until the finale of the film, I thought was absolutely fantastic. My next choice would be Jackie Chan for The Foreigner. Now, if you're looking at me and going, The Foreigner? Again, this isn't celebrating the movie. This is celebrating the performance in the movie that we saw. And I feel like Jackie Chan's performance was a performance that we've never seen from Jackie Chan. Again, transformative performance. He went into dark places that I've never seen him pull from to deliver this character to us, who was on a revenge mission for his family. All right, let's move on to the next category. For lead actress, Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, Meryl Streep, The Post. I have no issue with any of these. I looked at this list and I was like, yeah, this absolutely makes sense. While again, 3 Billboards I thought is just an okay film, Frances McDormand slays in this movie. Super impressed with her performance of a mom on the edge. Next category, supporting actor. William Dafoe, The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson, 3 Billboards, Richard Jenkins, The Shape of Water, Christopher Plummer, All the Money in the World, Sam Rockwell, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Now, I think out of all of the categories next to Best Picture, this might be the most difficult one to really give a good, strong prediction on who could win. It's been pretty controversial that Sam Rockwell's character got nominated for his role in 3 Billboards. However, he delivers an incredible performance of a terrible person, and that's what acting is. You deliver the performance of the character that you're playing, and he did it. He was believable. I don't like his character. If I met his character in real life, I would not want to be friends with him. But in the movie, he delivers it so well, it's near impossible for me to understand how he wouldn't get nominated for that role. And moving back to the big question of, well, who would you take out of the list and then who would you replace them with? I have 2 people in mind that I could throw into this category that I think are deserving for their performances, and I'm gonna go ahead and pull out Woody Harrelson for his role in 3 Billboards. While he did a great job in his role really wasn't that big in the film, and he gets taken out of the movie pretty quick. So we're gonna go ahead and pull him out, and I've got 2 replacements that I think are just as equally fitting for that new spot. My first pick for the new spot that we just created, I think is a no-brainer. I think everybody expected him to get nominated and was surprised when he wasn't, and that is going to be Patrick Stewart for his role as Professor Xavier in Logan. His performance as a character who has all of the abilities that he has in his mind, and then to have to kind of like lose his mind and go through this crazy dementia with all of his powers, I thought he played incredibly well. I thought it was brilliantly done, and I don't think I'm alone in being surprised that he didn't get the nomination. So for my first choice, it's Patrick Stewart. My number 2 pick would go to Ray Romano for his role in The Big Sick. I thought as a father who's facing the reality of losing his daughter to this unknown disease that's attacking her body, I thought he played incredibly well. I thought it was believable, and I've never seen Ray Romano drop a performance like that. So if I had to pull Woody Harrelson and put somebody else in, it would either go to Patrick Stewart or Ray Romano. Comment below with your picks. Supporting actress, Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, Laura Metcalf for Lady Bird, Octavia Spencer, The Shape of Water. And just like lead actresses, again, I don't have a problem with any of the nominations on this list. Now, I haven't seen Mudbound, so I can't really say what Mary J was able to deliver on in that movie. But right now, since I haven't seen it, I have to agree with everything on this list. I think the supporting actress category is very well done, and I think all of these ladies deserve the nomination. For cinematography, we have Blade Runner 2049 by Roger Deakins, The Darkest Hour by Bruno Del Bono, Dunkirk by Hoyt van Hoytema, Mudbound, Rachel Morrison. The Shape of Water, Dan Laston. I'm gonna be honest, even though I feel like this one is between two choices, for me, Blade Runner 2049 or The Shape of Water. I think both of these movies are just absolutely brilliantly shot. Everything about these films is just spectacular, and I was overly impressed with how well they look on the big screen. But again, this is another category that has a lot of strong competition, so I won't be surprised if any of the nominees win. Original score, Dunkirk with Hans Zimmer, Phantom Thread by Johnny Greenwood, The Shape of Water, Alexander Desplat, Star Wars The Last Jedi, John Williams, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Carter Burwell. All right, so for this category, like literally for me, there's only two options. And those two options are simply because the music takes on a life of its own. It becomes a personality in the film. It doesn't just like enhance the scene, it creates a new element within the scene. And those two movies that really stand out to me with their score are going to be The Shape of Water and Phantom Thread. Both of these movies, I mean, immediately I was just like, wow, this is incredible music. And it just added to the scene. It created new elements for the scene. It built on what all of the actors were doing. It built on the cinematography for how everything looked. These two films to me, like if one of these two doesn't win, I will be incredibly surprised. Comment below with what movie had a memorable score for you last year. And the last category we're going to talk about today is one of those categories that you might not think about, but guess what? You are talking about this one aspect with the folks that you talk movies with. If I've confused you, don't worry, I'll clear it all up. You wouldn't think about it, but you're already talking about it, and that category is Best Visual Effects. Now, typically when you go see a movie, you're like, wow, that was an incredible movie, the special effects were great, blah, 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 but then the Academy Awards come around and you're like, oh, who's gonna get the Best Actor? Who's gonna get the Best Picture? And we don't necessarily, some of us might, but we don't necessarily jump to visual effects, and for some of us, that's a driving force for why we go to the movies, why we wanna see these big summer blockbusters on the big screen is because of the special effects. So this category, I think we definitely need to talk about. For visual effects, we have Blade Runner 2049, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Kong Skull Island, Star Wars The Last Jedi, War for the Planet of the Apes. So the three films I see as strong contenders in this category are Kong Skull Island, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and War for the Planet of the Apes. A lot of the stuff in Kong Skull Island, I don't think people realize may have been special effects. Obviously, right, the big monsters, Kong, everything else like that, special effects, but I think the little subtle stuff on the island with like the little animals and the birds and everything like that, I think maybe that might skip past people as far as special effects goes, which I think really adds to how great the special effects were in that film. Next, War for the Planet of the Apes. Obviously, I don't see why this wouldn't be a contender, considering they had all of these apes on both sides of the aisle going after each other, attacking humans, and it all looked seamless. The special effects in this movie are fantastic, and I'm not just talking about the action sequences and the battles. The motion capture for Andy Serkis was incredible. All of the other apes and just like how you could see emotion on their face and in their eyes really speaks to how much attention to detail was put into this film to bring it to life in a believable way for us as moviegoers. And lastly, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And the special effects in this film are fantastic. A planet comes to life, people. We have avatars beating each other up. One of them turns into a Pac-Man. This movie looked so good, and the special effects team and James Gunn directing all did such a fantastic and brilliant job bringing this gigantic space opera to life for us on the big screen. And I couldn't be happier for James Gunn and his team because I truly believe that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was one of the best special effects looking films for last year. Sound off below with what you thought about your preferred category, but we're going to go ahead and move on to honorable mentions. Honorable mentions this week: Steven Spielberg is making another Indiana Jones film and a West Side Story remake. Mission Impossible 6 will be titled Mission Impossible Fallout. Netflix is in talks with Paramount to buy God Particle, which is the third film from J.J. Abrams in the Cloverfield series. Geostorm takes the #1 spot in the Japanese box office in its first weekend in theaters. Marvel releases a first look of Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. And that concludes this week's news segment. Thank you guys so much for enjoying the news with me and talking Oscar nominations. If you enjoyed any portion of that, go ahead and give me that thumbs up. Don't go anywhere though, because now we've got our movie reviews coming your way. And the 3 films that I was able to get out and see this past weekend were Paddington 2, 12 Strong, The Commuter. So let's go ahead and roll to those movie reviews right now. The bear is back, and this time he's on a mission to find his aunt the best birthday present ever. Upon finding the perfect gift for her 100th birthday, he realizes that things will not be as simple as simply making a purchase and mailing a package. Trouble soon finds its way into this story, and the adventure begins. So, does Paddington 2 deliver on a story about a bear trying to find the perfect birthday gift for his aunt? Or does this film feel like re-gifted tube socks? Let's dive in and take a look in this review. This film is a delight as a sequel, in that so many characters from the first film actually return to this story, really building on the world that Paddington lives in, as well as the familiarity he has in his surroundings with his community and all of his neighbors. And the fact that the Brown family, as well as everybody else, feels more comfortable with Paddington in this movie was actually a very nice touch, and it seemed believable. In the first film, I felt it was kind of weird because he just shows up and then all of a sudden, like, everybody in London is just like, how about that? A talking bear. Tommy, did you see we've got another talking bear in London again? It made no sense. Why would everybody be so casual and comfortable around a bear that's walking on 2 legs and talking while wearing a hat? However, that didn't detract away from any of the enjoyment of the first film, but it was kind of one of those moments that made me go, huh? But back to Paddington 2. In Paddington 2, occasionally you'd find somebody would like raise an eyebrow and be kind of curious as to about why there's a talking bear. But for the most part, the story kind of lives in one world and then moves to another world where people, again, are equally just like, yeah, this is a thing. And occasionally you'd find somebody who'd like raise an eyebrow with curiosity when they'd see Paddington kind of coming around. But for the most part, at the beginning of the film, everyone's kind of just okay with him because they're familiar with him. And then once we move later into the film, it goes back to that kind of thing where everyone's just kind of fine with it, and a talking bear is just part of the normal London lifestyle. But again, in the beginning and towards the end, we see all of the people he's familiar with kind of interacting with him in what would be considered a very believable way and a very charming and entertaining film. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the characters who returned for this film, because I thought the returning characters all played off of each other so well in this one. It really made the sequel feel like an addition to the world we're in, not just a second film in the Paddington franchise. I hope that made sense, because these characters all played together so well in this film, and you actually got a sense of community in this film because some time has passed between Paddington and Paddington 2, so we get to see kind of where people are now in this new story, while also understanding that there's kind of been like this emotional build out that's taken place because now everybody is familiar with Paddington. Of all the characters that returned for this film, my personal favorite wasn't anyone in the Brown family. It wasn't anybody in the neighborhood. My personal favorite was actually the random band that just showed up out of nowhere in the first film. And then again, they show up out of nowhere in this film, and it was such a delightful surprise, especially how they appear and in the specific scene in which they do so. So in both films, we just have this delightful band that pops up out of nowhere, kind of moving the story along with their song to kind of give us as an audience more information about what's happening. And the music jazz style that they play is so great and so much fun, and it really kind of creates and helps build out this world that Paddington lives in that really feels unique and special in both films. This is the third film I've seen with Sally Hawkins in less than 2 months. In all 3 of the films that I've seen her in the last 2 months, there's an underwater scene or joke that takes place in each of these films, which is leading me to believe that maybe it's mandated in her contract that a bathroom has to flood, or she has to have like some kind of like touching, heartfelt moment with something underwater. In the first Paddington, he actually tries to take a shower/bath and ends up flooding the entire bathroom. In Shape of Water, she floods her bathroom to have a more intimate moment with the sea creature. In The Shape of Water, at the end of the film, we actually see her and the sea creature having a touching moment underwater. In Paddington 2, Her and Paddington are having a touching moment underneath the water. I do not believe I'm the only one who sees an aquatic theme in her movies. And I'm happy to report that just like in the first film, this film wastes zero screen time. Things that occur in this film do so for very specific reasons that will either pay off right away or they'll pay off by the end of the third act. The character Judy actually starts a school newspaper, and we actually see the use of that school newspaper come into play later on. So its importance at the beginning of the film isn't really met until towards the middle, when she uses that newspaper to try and help find the culprit who's responsible for the crime that Paddington was framed for. The character Jonathan at the beginning of the film we find out is into steam model trains. He enjoys building them and kind of figuring out how they work. And by the end of the film we find out that Jonathan actually has to conduct and control a real life train. The character of Mary is back, and because she is a creative and she is a writer and an artist, she is able to figure out the mystery about who actually did the crimes instead of Paddington, similar to what we got from Angela Lansbury in the TV show Murder, She Wrote. And the villain in this film, Hugh Grant, just like the villain in the first film, Nicole Kidman, is trying to complete a process or a project that his family was doing that they weren't able to complete. So now it falls on him to try and finish this in the name of his family. Hugh Grant, by the way, plays the most entertaining and enjoyable split personality lunatic I have seen on screen in a very long time. Every single scene that Hugh Grant's in just oozes with fun because it's just palatable. You can tell how much enjoyment he had playing this role, or rather, playing all of these different roles. He gave each of his personalities 100% commitment, and the movie was enriched because of that. Paddington 2 is playing at your local movie theater right now, and I am definitely recommending a big screen viewing for this film. This is the touching, the heartfelt family story that we've been waiting for. I very much enjoyed the first Paddington movie, so I had high expectations already going in to see Paddington 2. I'm happy to report that this film actually pleasantly surprised me by how much I enjoyed it, even though I already had such high expectations for how much I would enjoy it going in. There's just so much goodness in this film that when I was writing the review, when I was watching the movie, and even now talking to you guys watching this, it's just still, it hits me and it resonates because it's just so well done, and Paddington just delivers so many wonderful little lines about how people should behave and be respectful to each other. Just such a great time overall. Cannot stress enough how well this film was made and how much you should get out to the theater to see it. There is simple, beautiful life lessons that take place. And we can all sit back and smile because Paddington not only makes his community better, but this adorable little bear actually helps us find the goodness in ourselves while we're sitting in the theater enjoying the movie. This is the perfect family movie, and because of that, it's getting all the high fives from this guy. Paddington 2 is playing at your local movie theater right now. Go see this film. Islamic terrorists, also known as Al-Qaeda, successfully attacked America on American soil, September 11th, 2001. This declaration of war took America and the world by surprise. It was after this act of terrorism that America showed the world the incredible resolve we have by banding together and helping each other after this horrific disaster. In that moment, America was united. Race, political affiliation, income, religious beliefs, all took a backseat after the devastation left by religious zealots. Enter the United States Military Special Forces and their passion for America and its freedoms. Does 12 Strong, the declassified true story of the horse soldiers, paint an accurate portrayal of the men who put their very lives on the line to defeat our enemy? Or does this film belong in a high school history class? Let's dive in and take a look in this review. My initial expectation for this movie when I was walking into the theater was set at respectful action flick. The trailers led me to believe that this film was going to be an action movie with some historical accuracies about the men who sacrificed their lives or put their lives on the line and survived to tell the tale. And I was correct in my assumption, however I was unprepared for how much heart this movie actually has. As I predicted, I thought this film would just kind of give us an introduction to the characters and then we'd be off and running, and I'm happy to report that this film actually does not waste any time getting to know the characters initially. We get to meet them, we meet their families, and then we're off and running. The runtime for this film is just over 2 hours, and it does not feel like 2 hours plus at all. I was pleasantly surprised by how quick-paced this movie is. And this is not to suggest that this film is just one gigantic explosion fest. There are plenty of bullets and bombs that go off in this movie to satisfy all of us who love our action movies. However, going back to what I said earlier, where there is just so much heart in this film, it's during the breaks in battle and the breaks in combat that we get these really profound conversations between leaders about what it means to be a leader. As a leader, what does it mean to have heart? To be a soldier, to be a warrior, to have a killer's eyes, the burdens and the pains of leadership, and so much more. In addition to the heart and depth this film had, and the incredible action sequences this film had, there was a lot of great on-screen chemistry as well. For example, Chris Hemsworth and Michael Pena played off of each other incredibly well. Typically, we can expect good performances from both of them in their roles. We see their names in a film and we know the caliber and the level of talent we're gonna get from them. However, in this film, they actually up their acting game, and then that elevates the overall quality of the film. Naveed Negahban and Hemsworth, again, also playing off of each other very well, as they both struggle as leaders to try and stay their course and to complete their mission. In fact, it was the conversations that these two characters had about leadership that were the highlight for me in this movie. Naveed is the big standout for me in this film. Out of all of the characters in this movie, I thought his performance was the one that will be most remembered. He goes from being a warlord in a very difficult, war-torn country who has suffered a lot of loss and has seen a lot of life ruined because of what is happening in his country, to also having some just straight up comedic moments as he's talking to another warlord as the Americans are about to attack. His performance brought it all in, and I was incredibly impressed with how well he acted in his role. And then just behind him was Pena and Hemsworth. This film delivers on action, perspective, heart, and the art of war. 12 Strong, the declassified true story of the horse soldiers, is playing at your local movie theater right now, and I am definitely recommending a big screen viewing of this film. I had such a great time in the movies with this film and was completely surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it when I left the theater. This is definitely worth your time and your hard-earned dollars. It covers a lot of story in just over 2 hours, but again, the time flies by. For me, this film felt like a tight hour and a half, maybe hour 45, but it did not feel like it went over 2 hours. This film was well directed, well acted, and well told. This is a powerful and emotional film that doesn't just look at war, but how war is fought from within the hearts of soldiers and leaders. And on top of that, all of the action scenes look incredible. So many explosions. I enjoyed this film so much, I'm actually looking forward to my second viewing. And because of that, this film is getting both high fives from this guy. 12 Strong is playing at your local movie theater right now. Check it out. It all started with a simple hypothetical question. From there, the clock is ticking and we are taken on a mystery-solving adventure on a commuter train. As time ticks by, the stakes are raised until we find out whether or not an insurance salesman from Ireland can solve the mystery and save the day. So, does the commuter deliver on an exciting mystery adventure, or should this train never have left the station? Let's dive in and take a look in this review. Walking into the theater to see this film, I was actually in positive spirits. I enjoy Liam Neeson action flicks. Also, I enjoyed The Shallows, which was directed by Jamie Collett-Serra, who also directs this film. So in all, I was optimistic walking into the movie theater. I'm happy to report this film did not disappoint me. However, there were some areas of improvement that I saw throughout the film that really could have elevated my enjoyment instead of kind of hindering the overall enjoyment that I had when I left the theater. First, the pacing is rough. The opening is a series of repetitive quick cuts that just show us who the McCauley family is, kind of what their day-to-day is, and just kind of who they are as a family. And that's pretty much the opening of this film until we get to Michael McCauley, played by Liam Neeson, while he's at his day job and we find out that he's actually being fired. Now from this moment, the film actually kind of really smooths out as far as pacing goes, but it does take quite a while while before we get any sense of urgency or excitement that actually like takes place on the big screen. However, it's not until the third act of the film where we actually really get some heart-racing moments, and then even that kind of falls out and it gets super smooth and calm again. I would say the first really big moment in this film that really felt like an adrenaline-fueled heart-racing moment takes place between Liam Neeson's character and Oliver, the guitar-carrying assassin, played by Kobna Holdbrook-Smith, who you may remember from the Doctor Strange movie. It was this fight scene that really felt exciting for the first time in the movie. However, even this scene could have tightened up some of the fight choreography to make it a little bit more action-packed and believable. Overall, the story is fine. There is some predictable moments and some predictable plot points that happen as we would expect, but I'm happy to report I did not suffer a single eye roll at any of the predictability. And unfortunately, the ending of the film doesn't really give us the resolution for the character, it only gives us the resolution for the action. I'll explain. Liam Neeson's character has 2 mortgages, his son is about to go to a very expensive college, and they need money for that. He just got fired from his job, and on top of that, he says they're broke. So he accepts his invitation to this game so he can earn $100,000 cash. And then as the story goes on, it kind of unravels and he kind of becomes more entrenched in the game, and he wants to solve the puzzle as to who's on the train, not necessarily for the cash, but to actually save someone's life and to be a hero. And when the film ends, it doesn't resolve any of the initial reasons that he accepts the invitation for the game. What we do find out is he goes back to his old job of being a New York City police detective. So in that, his family is producing some level of income, but we don't really know how his family is doing, which was the main reason for him accepting the invitation to the game in the first place. The Commuter is playing at your local movie theater right now. If you're the type of person that likes Liam Neeson action movies, I am going to recommend that you guys get out and see this film on the big screen. However, I will recommend that you guys do so at a matinee showing, so it's a cheaper price. But if you aren't really overly concerned with seeing this on the big screen, I totally get it. That's understandable. That's fine. But you should definitely check it out once it's available on DVD or your streaming services. It's an adequate mystery action movie that kind of is jostled at the very beginning by a social commentary that takes place regarding Wall Street, the 2008 housing crisis, and corrupt cops. In short, this film is just alright. I didn't leave the theater disappointed, but I also wasn't walking out skipping, snapping my fingers, singing the praises of Liam Neeson in The Commuter. If you're like me and you enjoy Liam Neeson's performances as an action star, I guarantee you won't be disappointed with his performance in this film. And now I'm going to ask you a question. Are you the type of person to see this film at a matinee showing for a cheaper movie ticket price? Or are you an individual who waits for this film to be available on its preferred streaming service? Feel free to comment below with your answer. There's no money for your response though. I'm not some weirdo lady who likes to play games with people on a train for money. And because of that, this film is getting 0 high fives from this guy. The Commuter. Check it out. Thanks for sticking around, folks. If you've seen those 3 movies already, go ahead and throw your comments below with what you thought about the films. But we're going to go ahead and move now, before we sign off, to what's arriving in theaters, what's arriving on DVD and Blu-ray for your home theater, as well as Certified Rad. In theaters this week, Winchester. Now this is one of those movies where I saw the trailer and I thought, I don't really think this is going to be exactly what the trailers are presenting. I feel like there will be elements of horror in it, but I don't believe for a second that Helen Mirren would sign up for just a straight horror flick. There's got to be something more to the story that's going to bring her in and like get her excited to play this role. All right, let's take a look at what's arriving for your home theater. On DVD and Blu-ray this week, Last Flag Flying, Professor Marston and the Wonder Women, The Square. 3 films that were in theaters that I did not see. I wanted to see Professor Marston and the Wonder Women. That got some pretty good buzz, so now that it's on DVD and Blu-ray, I may redbox that for $1 and check it out. If you've seen them, let us know what you thought about those films in the comments below. All right, now it's time for my favorite segment of the show. You guys never know what's going to drop, but I can guarantee that whatever drops will most definitely be certified rad. So this week's Certified Rad is actually coming to us from an article in Variety. So for the article, if you want to pull it up and read along while we discuss it here, I threw the link for it in the description box below. So just go ahead and expand that and it'll take you right to the Variety article. So the story begins with Jimmy Lifton, who's actually been working already with the veterans and homeless veterans to try and get them specialized training to get them into the workforce. And he's been doing this using his organization, the Lifton Institution for Media Arts and Sciences. And recently what he discovered that there was an opportunity for him to help even more people. And so he created a new program called Reel People. That's R-E-E-L, like a reel of film. And this group actually specializes in finding jobs for high-functioning autistic adults. Lifton observed that there is a lot of characteristics that would work well in the film community for high-functioning autistic adults, such as their attention to detail, their focus, their determination, and their general stick-with-itness. So his group actually goes out and tries to help these high-functioning autistic adults get jobs, have an income, find a sense of community, and then also that's going to reinvigorate some of their self-confidence and their self-worth. And when you can reach out to people who might otherwise be passed over and find a place for them in society to say, hey, you can make a valuable contribution here, you can guarantee that that is most definitely certified rad. All right, everybody, and that concludes this week's show. Thank you so much for sticking around with us all the way to the end. I hope you guys enjoyed the topics that we discussed here today, as well as the movie reviews. We'll be back next Monday at 10 a.m. PST, but right now we're getting ready to hop over to Facebook to do a Facebook live stream. And before I go, I don't want to forget to mention to follow us on all the social media platforms below. And that way you can stay up to date with everything that we're dropping as far as new content is concerned. And on all those social media platforms, you're simply going to look for Brunansky's Vlog. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you on Facebook Live. Hi, I'm Jeremy Brunansky, and you've just finished watching another episode of Brunansky's Vlog. Along with the weekly show, we also have special segments, as well as DVD and video on-demand reviews that you may want to check out. Thank you so much for watching this brand new episode, and we'll see you next Monday at 10 a.m. PST for another brand new episode of Brunansky's Vlog. Have a great week, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.